Hey, everybody, welcome back to Inside the Force. I'm Dave Cottingham, and she is Hannah Burr. Good evening, Hannah. How are you?
Good evening. I'm doing well, and how are you?
I'm doing good. Good to see you. It's been a couple weeks, not a couple weeks since I've seen you, but a couple weeks since we've done the show. Our last episode, of course, was right after the new year, and we talked about what we what's coming from Star Wars and what we were looking forward to the most. Um, and we're in the getting in the middle of a great series that came back, the Bad Batch. So we will be talking about episodes 3 and 4 for that, which three entitled "The Solitary Clone" and episode 4 entitled "Faster." So we will get into those. Not much news, but definitely wanted to touch on something that I discovered. But then we'll wrap up all of this mainly talking about the Mandalorian. Just dropped a brand new trailer this past
Mm-hmm.
week. So things are shifting for that, and we will talk about that. But first, of course, need to thank all of our patrons. Thank you for supporting us. It was just kind of launched last year, and we've got several that have joined, so we really appreciate it, and we will keep putting out some content on there. I've been kind of out of it these past week or two, mainly because, no fault of anybody but myself, but I've been going through a lot of equipment changes here, and I actually didn't have a camera last week, so that's why we didn't do a show last week. But I got a camera now. It's probably not the one I'm gonna permanently use, but this is a fail-safe right now for a little while. Working on the new website, which I'm eager to show everybody. And I was gonna actually send you a link probably here in a little while when I get closer to being done.
Oh, so excited.
Yeah, it's not glamorous, It's and if anybody that really goes to our site much, the problem is like our site is really not we're not a big breaking news type site, right? There's
Mm-hmm.
plenty of ones out there. I'm not going to try to compete with them, where they have a lot of input, and they have a lot of sources and things like that. I don't. I like reading those things, actually. I don't like really posting and doing that stuff. So really, what we need is really just a site that kind of just filled with information. Who we are, what we do, what options do we have, what shows do we do, things like that. So it's just kind of a good little informational tool. And then I'm probably going to do some video cuts of our stuff and then put it up there eventually. But it won't be something that has to be maintained, right? It's just going to be like, come to our site to find all the links. So that's what it is. It's really clean and nice, Anyway, you don't know what I'm talking about because you haven't seen it. Um,
I smile and nod, smile and nod.
Yes, it'll be done here soon. I promise. But again, patrons, thank you. Especially our master patrons, because part of your perks is that you're listed on the website. So I got your names on the website now, so that'll be up here soon. It's just taking me a long time trying to figure out what I wanted to do with it. So got it, designing it right now. It's almost done. All right, let's do it. Bad Batch episode 3, which was called Solitary Clone. Now, I don't know about you, but I was very surprised at the beginning of this thing that we didn't get any of the other crew, the main crew, and no Omega, right? This episode's focused on Crosshair and the return of Commander Cody. Again, not what I expected, but I felt like it was a really, really good episode. What did you think?
I think it's my favorite that we've seen thus far in Bad Batch season 2.
Hmm.
Uh, Absolutely loved it. I was also thrown. I was like, okay, we're starting with Crosshair. Are we going to kind of jump back and forth? Oh no, we're staying with Crosshair. Okay, we're staying with Crosshair. But I didn't hate it. It was actually kind of nice to see more of what he was experiencing and what he was going through. And it also answers the question of how Commander Cody ended up, you know, joining Rex, helping Rex out. So you know, it provides that answer, but I think it also really shows that I think a lot of these chips are ineffective in some capacity because a lot of the clones are really starting to doubt their choice. Well, not their choice, but doubt the order that they followed
Right.
and doubt the empire. And I think that's really, really cool because something that we tend to forget, and it's hammered into us in the Clone Wars, is that each of these clones is an individual.
Yes.
Each is their own human being. They have their own soul. They have their own conscience. They even gave each other nicknames so they weren't ripped of their identities by just being called a number, which, you know, it broke my heart when they just kept calling Crosshair by his number. Because it just reinforces, like, you're just a tool. You're just part of this army. You're not an individual.
Right.
So I think, you know, it just brought a lot of things home, and it helped remind us that these clones are humans. These are people that we fell in love with. These are characters that we love, who unfortunately were cloned for a purpose that was beyond their it was beyond their choice. But now we get to see that they actually do get a choice later on. So I wonder if it's the brain just sort of slowly eating away at the chip, or the body fighting against it naturally, and that's making them doubt orders. But like, this one just kind of hit home for me a little bit and did a very good job of tying the Clone Wars to Bad Batch. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm with you. I think not only, it was crazy though to say this, I think it's not only probably what I would think is maybe the best episode they've done in both seasons, in my opinion.
I actually would probably agree with you there.
Yeah, which is saying something because, again, the Bad Batch isn't even in this episode. But like you said, I think we're given a, you know, not only a look at how, like you said, how clones, especially Cody, are starting to question what their purpose is right now, and what the Empire's purpose is right now, because they were under the impression still that it's the Republic, but it's not. And on the flip side, though, we're still seeing how, like you said, how, like, Rampart still treats these people as clones. They're not individuals. They're numbers. And I thought it was fantastic. Now, I didn't realize until now, really, until just today. So the two scenes we see Cody and Crosshair have on Coruscant, right, with in front of that big wall.
Yes.
There's two scenes, right? The before and after they get back from the mission.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really realize exactly what that wall was. But those listening or watching, and I don't know if you know, Hannah, but we've seen this wall before. In season 5 of the Clone Wars, an episode called "The Jedi Who Knew Too Much," which was the arc where Ahsoka leaves. So the last 4 episodes. So this is episode 18 of that season. And when she goes on the run, there's a scene where she's running across this wall. Mm-hmm. And in that episode guide, I looked it up. In that episode guide, it explains what that wall is. And the wall is a monument made of polished stone from the Battle of Geonosis. And it has the names of the clones that died in the Battle of Geonosis.
Okay. So,
and I don't think we saw it in this episode, but at the top of it, you see the old Republic logo, and then underneath it does say Battle of Geonosis. But I don't think we saw it in this. You saw it in the episode where Ahsoka's running, because you can see the top of it over. But it's funny because in this, I was trying to, when I watched this episode, I was trying to see if I can make out any of the names on there because I'm assuming it was a name of, like the Vietnam Wall that we have in DC. But I really couldn't make anything out. Like it was really random stuff. And I got to thinking like, well, would it even be names? Because they didn't really have names then. That was the first battle, right? The first time the clones were put into battle. Did they make each other names while they were training on Camino? I don't know. Maybe they did then. And but anyway, it says here on the notes. So this is the note that is online here that is telling the animators how to make it look right. And it says, please note that the names of the clones should just be random groupings of numbers. The sides and top of the stone should be left rough and unpolished. So it's intended to be just a bunch of CT so-and-so, CT this, CT that, CT this probably, So there is no names necessarily on this thing. I thought that was very interesting because I think very much what you're saying, I think that was the intent, right? To put Crosshair and Cody in front of this wall to remind us that this is how the Empire, the Republic, now the Empire, considers these clones, right? Just numbers, just a bunch of numbers. They're not anybody important. They're not anybody special. I think this is. I'm telling you, I love where the show is going with this and explaining, because the beginning of the beginning of Attack of the Clones, when we learn about the army and we learn about this, and then we watch the Clone Wars, and then we see the Clone Wars end. I mean, there isn't really we don't have a conclusion of what happens to the clones, and I think that is partially what this show is intended for. Now that I'm really understanding kind of some of these storylines, so I do love it. I love where they're going with it. I think Crosshair in this episode, I'm still on the fence on, is he doing this? Is he doing this because he truly believes in like following orders, or is he really, or is he really struggling at all with it as much as Cody is? Because I part of me feels like he's not struggling with what he's doing, because I mean, like we saw, I mean, he clearly just murdered that governor without hesitation. So. I don't know, where are you with Crosshair now after this episode?
I think he has doubts. I don't know, just because the animators they do such a great job of taking these pieces of art and making them realistic, giving them that little twinkle in their eye or that dark look in their eye. That's how good it is.
Yes.
I don't know, whenever Crosshair just has a moment of thinking, and even when he's saying it, it almost sounds like, and it feels like it's being forced a bit. It's like, well, this is my programming. Mm-hmm. But I think he's starting to doubt. I really do think he is. But I think part of him is maybe scared of doubting. Because I guess in his mind it's, well, then what was everything for?
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm kind of with you there, because there's a few shots that they intended to show us, which was one scene. I think there was two shots. There are two scenes of him waking up, in his bunk or whatever, in his dorm. Yeah. And then the shots of him sitting by himself eating. Mm-hmm. They just gave us like just complete hints of the feeling of loneliness that he has to feel. Like he's not waking up in the room full of his other boys, He's not eating with his group, with the other Bad Batch guys, the Clone Force. So, and those guys, those other clones got up and left when he sat down. Like no one else likes this guy anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So, not only were they giving us that sense of loneliness for him, I think, like you said, I think that's contributing a little bit to, his feeling of doubt. But that all kind of went away as soon as he pulled that trigger for me. Like I was like, man.
I mean, maybe that's his point of no return.
Yeah, I don't know. That it is going to be hard to I don't know. I guess anybody in Star Wars can technically be redeemed.
I think the loophole is that and please correct me if I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure Crosshair says earlier in the episode when he and Commander Cody are talking, he says, we're tools. We're weapons. Mm-hmm. And it kind of, for me, reminds me in Mass Effect 2, you meet this character named Thane who is an assassin, but he believes that his body is a tool. Someone pays him to do a job and he does it. So he is a tool. He's not actually committing the crime. Or it's something like that. So I wonder if that's his justification for pulling the trigger.
Part of it's like
I'm a weapon.
Yeah, like following orders, right? I'm just following what you're telling me to do. Mm-hmm. So it's really your murder. I'm just I'm just the weapon that does it, So I get that. I think that could lend itself to it a little bit. But as we learn, though, it comes down to choice, right? I mean,
yes, that is true.
And he's so, the thing about it is the character is so monotone. Like you can't get a sense of the way he speaks. Like, is he speaking, confidently, or is he just speaking sarcastically? He's just so dry, and it's hard to read. Like as an animated character, it's so hard to read.
Based on what you're saying, though, I do believe he was doubting, but I do wonder if we're not going to see Crosshair again until the end, because it's going to go one or two ways. Crosshair is going to have a coming to Jesus moment. He's going to turn around and he's going to come back to his family. But this episode could have served that cause of saying, look, this is when Cody chose this and Crosshair chose this. And that situation could have been the point of no return.
Oh. That's
when he pulled that trigger, because Cody didn't. So you have like a Tales of the Jedi thing, parallel story going on between the two of them.
Yep, you do. Yeah, that's interesting. I think that's definitely a good comparison there. But a good contrast between the two of them for sure. Yeah, I like that. I just think this episode was so just encapsulating and just capturing your just interest and just kind of pulled you in. I mean, plus the fighting. It really was almost like a Clone Wars episode. I mean, with the troops and stuff. You're right. I mean, battling battle droids. It felt very, very, very familiar.
It did, and I love the extra detail of the wall. I love that you were able to find that, because that just adds that much more gravitas to the whole situation. And then I also love a couple of Dooku mentions throughout it. And I love the idea that Dooku, like any other Sith, is trying to undermine his master.
Right.
So it just kind of confirms, but it makes you go, wow, Dooku wasn't... And I mean, we talk about this in Beyond the Saga, but Dooku isn't truly a bad guy. He actually is a complex character. He, I think deep down, Even though he was like no excuses, he was definitely manipulated and quickly fell to the dark side. But I honestly believe at times he thought he was doing the right thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so.
And I think this episode also shows it where Dooku straight up is like, this empire is bad. This
Right.
isn't good. So I'm going to do what I can to tear it down from the inside.
Interesting.
So,
Yeah. Yeah, that's really good. I do want to just mention and remind people that you brought up at the beginning of this conversation that the clones are individuals, right? And it's funny because now that we're getting into this a little bit more about Order 66 and whether or not the chip is controlling them, or are they starting to, because it seems like it's starting to maybe wear off and they're actually starting to really think for themselves. I mean, if you go back to the very first episode that was released, season 1, episode 1, even though chronologically it's not the first episode now, but if you go back and just watch that episode, it's called Ambush. And I don't know if you remember, but it's basically Yoda leading some troopers
yes.
to kind of prove that the planet that they're on. I can't remember. I think it's Tordaria, because I think the character is a Tordarian, which is like Watto. And then of course Asajj Ventress there is our first kind of introduction to her. And there's a scene during the battle, like overnight, where the clones are like very like questioning like if they're going to survive, and Yoda's like, yes, we are, we'll be fine. But then he talks about how they are individuals. He's the one that kind of says this. It's crazy because if you think really back then, I was like watching that like, okay, whatever. But that really has carried on through that whole series, and then of course now through the Bad Batch. And I think that was the whole intent of the Clone Wars. And remember, Lucas is the one that started the Clone Wars. Filoni took it over and all that stuff, but like it's all from Lucas. And I think it's a brilliant idea to give these clones individual identities, and that really again is a testament to that creative thought, but then also obviously that just creates a whole batch of storylines that you can do because of they're not so just they're not robots, right? So anyway, I just wanted to throw it out there because I think what you said with that is like that's reminding me like that was the first episode, and that was back then you're thinking that it's just okay, whatever. It's a great little line that Yoda says, but it has a lot of meaning, right? So
Yeah. And then they went and ripped our hearts out with Order 66.
true. But again, that also makes it a little more powerful, right? Because
Oh,
especially
definitely.
especially Cody, and now that we see what happened with Rex and Ahsoka, and that's a great point too, because the whole thing about how much I think back to the first season when the first season of the Bad Batch, when Wrecker, remember when Wrecker's chip finally like kicked in,
Huh?
and he tells him later like I tried to stop it, like I couldn't stop it. So it's as if they know that what they're doing is wrong, like they can't control themselves. But it feels like, at least with Wrecker, it did, right? In Rex, we saw that in season 7, was Rex was fighting it. I mean, he was shaking, like he was trying to fight it. But it seems like some clones, they couldn't. They just took the order, and like Cody took the order and just ordered Kenobi to get blasted out. So it's like, so does it have different effects on clones? Does it wear off differently? It's. I think there's still a lot of questions about how that chip actually worked, because I think we've seen different variations of it that kind of calls into question. Okay, is it just different for everybody, or is it the same? So, I mean, I don't. It's not killing me that I don't know, but I feel like those things should hopefully be answered soon.
I would almost like I'm just trying to think because part of a fan theory is that when Yoda says like or when Yoda experiences all the screams happening that it's not just the Jedi being killed, it's all of those clones screaming in pain and agony because they don't want to do what they're doing.
Oh, that is interesting. Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
so it's not him feeling the deaths of the Jedi, it's him feeling the deaths of the clones as well. And
Wow.
so that kind of also makes you go, "Oh, ow."
Yes, absolutely.
But if that's true, and in Revenge of the Sith, we see a couple of clones just saying yes, sir, like, and they go straight to it. So, and Crosshair didn't have that visceral of reaction. So I wonder, and also, with with the Bad Batch, their chips kicked into gear later. So I almost wonder if, in general, it's supposed to make clones follow orders. They're
Yes.
not supposed to question it. It almost takes over the nerve centers, the nerves of their body, and all of a sudden they're puppets on strings, which is a terrifying that's a really terrifying thought versus people just programmed to follow orders. But because there have been malfunctions in chips, I wonder if there's just a handful of clones where when their chip was inserted, it wasn't inserted correctly, or there was a slight error, or there was a slight malfunction of some kind. Which
Yeah.
is why I think the reason why Rex is like shaking is because he's trying to keep control of his body.
Yeah, totally.
So I like obviously we don't know this 100%, but I almost wonder if it was just fortunate that the handful that had the chips that malfunctioned in one way or another, even on a smaller level, were the ones who were able to resist it, or at least attempt to resist it. But then that makes you go, wow, so all of these clones just consciously are aware that there's a puppet controlling them, and then I wonder if they just get to a point where they're so traumatized by everything they just give in.
Yeah. Yeah, or could be something with their training and them being weak minded or something like that. I don't know.
Brainwashed.
Brainwashed completely.
I mean, like if part of Yoda feeling people die were the clones also screaming in pain as well internally, but the Force would feel that extreme amount of pain.
Right.
That means that they probably went through torture of some kind. That's going to knock you out in a sense of that's going to make you at some point just go with the flow
Yeah.
because it's
True.
easier. You don't want to fight anymore. Like the damage is already done.
Yeah. Very interesting.
And then maybe they were told, well, the Jedi brought it down, blah, blah, blah. That's part of the brainwashing happening afterwards. So now they have a reason to justify what they did. I don't know. Like, this is like big conspiracy theory type of.
Absolutely. No, I think, no, but I think that's to me, those are the questions that keep coming up with the chip that I don't think we have the full answers to yet. I mean, I think we will get them. I think there will be. We may not get them in like an episode or a whole season of the Bad Batch or anything like that, but it's probably going to end up being some encyclopedia that comes out that explains the whole process and all that stuff. But that's fine. I just want
I
that
bet you
something.
it's going to be one obscure comic where they find a
Probably.
lab.
Yeah. Yeah, no, right. I mean, I think they were going down that road a little bit when, I think it was season 6. The whole Fives thing where Fives
Yes.
his chip malfunctions and they that's where we got introduced to the chip and then I think they were trying to explain how it was supposed to work and all this stuff, but they started doing it obviously in season 7, the end of season 7, and then in this episode in this series. So there's a lot of I feel like they're explaining it a lot. They just haven't given us a full explanation yet.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're giving us a lot of details, but hopefully that gets there. As more and more clones leak. Like, for example, like, you know, we saw in Rebels when they find Rex and Wolf and Gregor, you know, they all say we got our chips taken out.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a question like Cody, he has made the choice to leave. Does he need his chip taken out? If he is like technically in control of his decisions?
I think it would be more of a precaution because who's to say if
they can't make another order?
Yeah, basic or even just like kind of find a way to reboot it.
Right. Yeah, I can see that.
And maybe that's what they do when they start seeing clones kind of go off. I mean, we have no evidence of this, but it could be that whenever they see a clone starting to truly doubt, they reboot the chip.
Right.
I mean, who knows?
That's definitely possible. I think, you know, I mean, it's kind of what I guess the Bad Batch did in season 1, right? This precaution to get all the chips out. But I don't know. I think that's what made this episode so fascinating because of all of these things, these topics that came through. Just having those two guys in it, I think it was pretty incredible.
It was.
Okay, so episode 4, not as great as episode 3.
No. No.
And we still don't get our full team back. Which is weird. I actually had a chuckle while I was watching this because I'm sitting there, you know, every Wednesday morning, me and Sam, my oldest daughter, we get up before she goes to school and we watch, you know, shows together, and we're watching Bad Batch right now. As I'm watching this, it's funny. All I think about are all those shows, live action shows, that, you know, when you're watching a live action show, then all of a sudden there's like a couple characters missing. And you know that they wrote them out because they can't afford to pay them to do all the episodes, right? So they're only in like half the season. But I'm watching this like, wait a minute, these are animated characters. Why are we writing out? And it's voiced by the same guy.
Right.
You know, it's not like they're paying a different actor. The whole time I'm thinking like, this is weird. This is kind of weird.
It was weird.
Did you get a sense of that?
Yeah, it was weird. I'm like, okay, in the next episode, are we just gonna get Hunter and
Echo?
What Echo? Like what? What?
Yeah. That's all I thought about for the first half of this thing was like, wait a minute, did they like? Maybe they're saving money by not having them animated on screen.
I don't think so. I just like this was just a weird episode in general. I mean, it was still fun. I love the fact that we get to see more of what tech can do.
Yes. Yeah.
But I don't see the purpose of this episode.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and then one last note about the whole, not including some characters.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
No. I just want to mention the one series that I really got, even though I still liked the series and I still watched it to the end, the one series that did that more than anything, I felt like, was The Walking Dead. I don't know if you ever watched The Walking Dead.
No.
Okay. In The Walking Dead, now, granted, there are a ton of characters in the whole, which is great. There's a lot of characters. But in the series, you can just tell, like, they made situations where the characters got split up. So then, of course, this episode, you're only going to follow them. And then the next episode, you're going to follow. And it's like, it was completely intentional. I can get it because you can't put them all in the same episode every episode, right? That's what I was thinking about this. Like, wait a minute. Is that what they're doing here? They're taking those guys out because they want this to feel like a live action show in a sense where we're not going to get the characters in every episode. Because I think, right, we got all the episodes last season with all the characters. I think every character was in every episode last season, right? Which in animated series, I feel like you expect that. Anyway, I won't say any more
That
about it. But
is no, that is weird. Why would they do that? I mean, it's not like it was this like special bonding moment that needed to happen. It's not like they wanted to split up the two episodes so that we can learn more about these characters. It wasn't like
yeah,
that at all. It
yeah,
you hit it on the head. It is literally it feels literally because oh, we can't afford these two.
yeah. Even though it's voiced by the same guy.
Yeah, oh my gosh. Yeah,
I
you
that's what I've totally felt like that like half the episode. I'm thinking like, why aren't Wrecker and Echo in this episode? Like, why? I know they're off doing a mission, but it's like, why couldn't you put them in this episode? That's the only thing I was kind of questioning. You know, like I get it if this was live action and you had to cut some characters out because couldn't afford them, but come on, this is an animated series, right? Like you said, there wasn't anything in this episode that became unique only to Wrecker and Tech and Omega.
yeah.
I don't know. I at least I didn't catch it. I actually only watched it once, so I haven't gone back and watched it again yet. But I didn't get that sense that this was, like you said, this was that important that it's going to drive us into the next episode or something. I mean, obviously, the only thing that came about to me was the whole Sid isn't who you think she is.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. It's just I feel like and I know these episodes are necessary, but it definitely feels like an episode of why is this here? What
Yeah,
is the purpose? What is the purpose of Tech just knowing how to strategize like that? What is the purpose of us learning a bit more about Sid's history? And you really, really hope that with these setups, there's going to be, there's going to be a punchline to it.
yeah,
It's going to land. Set up and payoff. Like, is there going to be a
yeah.
payoff? So yeah,
You mean later on, right?
yeah, later on in
Yeah.
this season. Otherwise, it's like this is a filler episode. Why did you need this episode?
Yeah, and I saw a question, which I again, one of the things I completely agree with. I saw a question that someone put on Twitter, and they said, "Why not just do pod racing?"
I thought it was pod racing, and I actually got a little excited.
I did too. I completely did. But why wouldn't you do pod racing? I mean, it's the same thing. It's basically the same thing.
Yeah, why wouldn't you do pod racing?
I don't know. I don't
Is
even
pod
know what.
racing just unique to Tatooine? Is that the point?
I mean, that's a good point. I don't know. It could be actually. It could be. It could be pod racing is only at Tatooine, and then this kind of racing is on. I don't even know if they called it. Did I? Did they?
They did
mention what
name
this was
it,
called?
and
They
it was
did name
some.
it?
It
Okay.
was something similar to pod racing. I feel like it. What was it called? Sorry, I'm looking this up. What was it called?
Yeah, I'm kind of watching the episode right now, but it just said Sid's kind of walking out, and I don't know what. Is she the one that says what it is?
Sid does say it.
Yeah, but as soon as I didn't see Riot Racing, it's called Riot Racing.
Riot racing.
As soon as those things came rolling around, they weren't pods. I was thinking, oh man, that would have been cool. But Riot Racing, so
Maybe it is just like it's the same thing, but it's different per planet.
it's true. I think you could be right.
But yeah, I was disappointed too. I heard the. I was like, oh, pod racing.
Yes, I wonder if. Yeah, I'll look that up in a second. Yeah, I part of me felt like when this was happening, and of course, when the droid couldn't race, I just felt I immediately went to, oh, this is Omega's Anakin moment. Like she was going to be the winner.
Yes.
to get into the pod and race. And I had a brief, and then it left me. I had a brief thought. I'm thinking, wait a minute. Yeah, I think you mentioned this before. Like, okay, wait a minute. Are they going to introduce her as force sensitive now because she can sense this? I really thought that for a second. That's where they were going with this. Did you have that thought at all?
Did I was like, up, we got an Anakin, we got an Omega who Tech is trying to guide her, and then all of a sudden she's like, no, I have to do this, and she goes off and like all of a sudden it's like she's force sensitive. Yeah, I thought we were going down that path.
Yeah, I actually thought of that. I thought of you when I thought that because I was like, I know you had mentioned her thinking maybe she would be force sensitive, but I was like, well, wow, this could be the opportunity. At least hint at it. Maybe not tell us, but at least hint at it. But so it was a little surprising when Tech got into the pod, but it's cool. I mean, I guess the thing about it is, Tech has actually been a little bit pretty focal point this season, right? The whole thing on when they were on Serrano and he got his leg hurt, and he was pretty big focus there. So now he's got his opportunity to win this race, and I just looked it up. It says here pod racing was popular on planets such as Malastare, Kerrigan's, Theron, Cantonica, and Tatooine. So it is done on other planets.
Huh.
Just not this planet, which I can't remember what this planet was even called either. But anyway, but yeah, I mean, there wasn't really much, unlike the previous episode, it wasn't really much to dive into and question in this, it was pretty straightforward, I feel like. And I don't know, anything else in this episode you kind of...
Honest, I feel like they had a perfect setup because at the end when they're like, and Tech, there's nothing else to his name. I'm like, we're gonna see that there's a stormtrooper or there is somebody from the Empire, an Imperial, that is in the crowd and goes, what? And all of a sudden, Bad Batch, woo woo. All of a sudden, like that's what I was hoping for. I was hoping that somebody would hear his name from the Empire, connect the dots, and the Bad Batch are alive, and it just goes, oh no.
It's not to say we don't see that in the next episode.
I know. This is this really really mean for me to say? If I say that I kind of hope in the next episode they find that town has been destroyed because they thought the Bad Batch was there.
Interesting. That's it. No, that's not. I mean, I think.
Am I a bad person?
No. But that's interesting to think of because I think Rampart. The thing about Rampart is he going to be secretly trying to go after them because he doesn't want anybody else to know that he failed, right? Or lied about them being dead. So that's a big, I think, plot point about him.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. The only thing I would question about this episode, and I'm curious what you think, is like I said, I think the only thing that came out of this is that there's a backstory of Sid that we don't know. And but the question is do you care about her backstory? Like I don't really have a feeling about it.
Yeah, to me, unless it comes into play in an important way, I don't care. I feel like it's adding too much. Unless you're trying to set something up that's going to have a payoff later, where that's going to be important later on in the series. But at the moment, it's this episode, even with the revelation of Sid's background, even with that, this entire episode just made me go, why?
Mm-hmm.
why do we need this? Why do we need to know about Sid's backstory? And but it's not the why in like oh, I'm so hooked, I got to figure out why they threw this in there. It's a why of genuine confusion.
Yeah.
So I at the moment I don't care about Sid's backstory. That might change within the next couple of episodes, but at the moment, no.
Yeah, because we went 16 episodes in season 1 where we didn't question it. It was kind of told us that she used to help, the Jedi, I think, right during pre Clone Wars or something like that.
Something like that.
And that's all I really needed to know. I don't, again, unless there's, yeah, I agree with you. Unless there's like some significant connection that we need to know to further this season or this storyline, I guess I'm in for it. But right now, I just don't really. It doesn't really bother me that I don't know what that is yet. It would have been, for me, it would be better if there's still this mystery of like Omega still, like what, which I think it looks like they're past her, I guess.
The fact that we don't really have the spotlight on her, if that makes sense, she's no
Totally.
longer the main focus. I'm like, well, what's her purpose?
Yes. I'm agreeing with that totally. Totally. Like, yeah, why is she in this series now?
Yeah.
Well, I like her. I hope that they figure something out there, but I'm with you because she's just. It seems like she's just another one of the group, but she's not. She's not just one of she wasn't made for that, and there's got to be a reason for her. There's got to be a reason for her.
Season 1 made it very clear that she is special, but we
Yes.
still have yet to understand why.
Right. Absolutely. Okay, so maybe we'll get it. Anyway, that's episode 4, Faster. So clearly we understand why it's called Faster. Racing. So, but I think that was the shortest episode we've gotten so far. That was only like 24 minutes.
It wasn't long.
It wasn't long at all. Okay. Anyway, wow, that was actually some big talks about those episodes. I didn't think there was that much to talk about, but that was some good stuff there. Okay, before we get into the Mandalorian, of course, I wanted to touch on the publishing side of things out there. Novels still coming out this year. Star Wars Jedi Battle Scars, which is the book between the games. The game is coming out in March in a couple months, as well as this book, March 7th. Excited about that. The High Republic Cataclysm, April 4th. The High Republic Path of Vengeance, May 2nd. And then Inquisitor, Rise of the Red Blade, July 18th. Comics, this past week, you've got Bounty Hunters number 30, Han Solo and Chewbacca number 9. Next week, to finish out January, you've got Dr. Aphra 28, Yoda number 3, and the High Republic, The Blade number 2. And then on February 1st, you've got one comic coming out, and that is the beginning of Sana Starros, her series. Number 1, if you don't know that character, she was introduced in the first volume of Star Wars that we covered on Beyond the Saga, if you want to go back and watch that. But Sana Starros first came in as apparently Han Solo's wife, but then she eventually made her way to have a backstory where she was in a relationship with Dr. Aphra, so she was in Dr. Aphra's comic for a while. She is getting her own series now.
Wow.
And that kicks off February 1st. Yep. So go check that out. All right. So, as everybody knows by now, starting March 1st, The Mandalorian will kick off season 3, and it will be the first time we have overlapping series of Star Wars shows going on, because Bad Batch will still be going on.
Mm-hmm.
So for about 4 weeks or so, I think it's about 4 weeks, 4 or 5 weeks, we will have 2 episodes coming out each Wednesday, one from Bad Batch, one from The Mandalorian. So this past Monday, during the AFC or the NFC divisional round of Dallas and Tampa Bay, they released the trailer for season 3 of The Mandalorian. So already it's up to 5.5 million views in 3 days.
Wow.
When did you watch it, Hannah, and what did you think?
2 hours before recording this podcast.
For real? Really?
I was
Didn't
behind
I
on
tweet
the.
it? Didn't I text it to you?
What? Did you text it to me?
Actually, I don't think maybe I didn't. I
don't
thought I
think
did.
you did. Did you? I don't think you did. I'm
Oh,
checking.
didn't I? Oh, I thought I put it in our group text. I did not. Maybe I completely thought I
I
did.
didn't get it.
You know what? I didn't. I thought I did.
So
Okay,
yeah.
maybe that's my fault. But you should have known that
No,
was out
I
there.
should have known. I should have known.
That's funny. That's funny.
So
Okay.
I wasn't watching the Cowboys play because I'm an Eagles fan. But
True. Wow, the
yeah,
Eagles could play the Bengals in the Super Bowl. Actually,
they could. Oh, that would be.
wow,
Oh,
that would be.
oh.
Martin's a big Eagles fan. Did you
I
know that?
do know that. I do.
Yes.
It makes me
So,
very happy.
yeah, nah, whatever.
Nah, whatever. Okay.
No,
Anyway.
you know what? I was actually born in Philadelphia, so I do have a little connection to the Eagles. I did like them growing up, but I love my Bengals. So anyway,
Yeah, respect. Anyway,
trailer.
thank you, trailer. Yeah, so I watched it 2 hours before we recorded this podcast.
Okay.
And as
Now-
my husband
now
said, how did Grogu get back together with Mando?
Yes. So let's go there first. Because right before we started rolling on this episode, you had said, you had mentioned, because both you and your husband have not seen all of the Book of Boba Fett,
We have not.
which is technically the Mandalorian 2.5.
I know everybody keeps saying that, and it's been spoiled for me. I know what happens, so I'm kind of like,
But he wasn't spoiled.
no, I haven't told him everything that happens in that.
Okay. So anybody out there that has seen the trailer and not seen the Book of Boba Fett, yes, you probably are confused. In fact, I saw like people on social media, on Twitter especially, they're saying like, Star Wars fans reacting like, wait a minute, Grogu's with Mando again? Like, what happened there? So, yes, there are basically 2.5 episodes of the Book of Boba Fett that are strictly dedicated to Din Djarin and Grogu and Luke, and even Ahsoka's in there. It's a great. It's honestly, I think, the best parts of the Book of Boba Fett, which is kind of buff to say, but we've talked about that before.
Yeah.
Okay, so knowing now that where we are in the timeline, what does this trailer do for you as far as your excitement for The Mandalorian?
I am so excited that we're going to get more of essentially Mandalore. We're going to get a lot more about the lore of the Mandalorians, which I am super excited about. We're actually going to go to their planet. And then I guess some Jedi are going to be involved in one way or another. I think that's probably going to be a flashback. I don't know. I'm just excited to learn more about the Mandalorians and their culture. That was one part of the Clone Wars that I wish they expanded a bit more on. So I'm just excited that we're going to get more of that.
Yeah, I'm curious. I'm very curious on how much more that we get, because I think he's going there for a purpose, right? Because
Right.
I don't know if you got that part from not watching the Book of Boba Fett, but he admits to the armorer that he had taken off his helmet,
Yes.
so therefore he was basically kicked out of that clan, and in order to repent, he needs to go to the waters of Mandalore, I guess, or something like that. I think it's something that's very underground inside Mandalore.
Mm-hmm.
So that's his mission. And even though we were kind of hinted at in season 2 of The Mandalorian that, with Darksaber and with Bo-Katan, like the clans are kind of scattered again, and there's no leader. And but I think there's still that. I think there's a question out there of, are they fighting amongst themselves again? Are they just kind of scattered and hiding and not trying to, I'm sure they were kind of in hiding, I guess, from the Empire, but the Empire is no longer around. So what are they doing now? Are they even thinking about rebuilding Mandalore? Are they, is it even habitable now based on what the Empire's done? So there's a lot of questions about that, like what you're saying. I think diving into that and letting us know where they are with that, I think is very cool, and very good for us that are fans of the Mandalorian and that whole lore and all that stuff. So I do agree with you there.
I think it also answers the question of where were they during 4, 5, 6?
Totally.
You know.
I mean, obviously the Empire probably maybe thought that they wiped them out, purging them and all that stuff, and maybe they did, majority of them, but we can clearly see that a lot of clans survived and kind of been scattered around the galaxy.
I love the multiple colors we see too. Absolutely love.
I feel like a lot of locations.
Yes.
There's flying through this canyon. There's he goes and visits Grief, which doesn't look like Navarro, but maybe it is, but it doesn't look like it. Yeah. Because it looks very upscale and civilized, more so than Navarro was in. But I guess it is actually. I think it is actually Navarro, because I'm seeing a shot of him landing. Although I can't tell though. That's tough. But there's a lot of shots of him just flying around with Grogu. Mm-hmm. And then there's the rain, like sleet shots. I think that's them approaching Mandalore. We still see that wide shot again of what looks like the old capital city of Mandalore that's just destroyed, which is crazy looking. I think that is like one of the most epic shots I've seen. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he uncovers a mask, buried, which is probably underneath Mandalore where he's going. Anyway, there's some TIE fighters coming at him, Mm-hmm. So I do think, though, that there's a point in here where, what he says. He says, it's that it's Captain Teva, the Asian guy that we've seen in the previous seasons.
Yes.
He says, I'm pulling up what he says here. He says, there's something dangerous happening out there, and by the time it becomes big enough for you to act, it will be too late. What do you think he means by that?
I have no idea. I mean, are we going to be getting a glimpse into the First Order?
That's what I think it is, yes.
You think that's what he's talking about?
I think that's what he's talking about.
Because I can't think of what else it would be unless there was something that he was able to stop on his own with Grogu. And so that's why we never hear of it.
Yeah, and I do think, which I think this might be crazy to say, which I do think it's possible that we do actually get some kind of origin of Snoke.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, some reason I'm kind of feeling that.
Oh,
I don't know why, but I just have this feeling that Filoni and Favreau are somehow gonna, because there have been rumors for a long time since the first season of Mandalorian that we were going to get like glimpses of the beginnings of the First Order, possibly, because it is kind of the transition, right? It's been 5 years
right.
since the Empire's been gone, that we could get that. So, with knowing Filoni and Favreau, it's like this is an opportunity for them to even connect it even more to the sequel trilogy by giving us a more detailed version of, because all we know right now is he is basically a clone, right, of Palpatine, like a different version of a clone. But like when we get him in the Rise of Kylo Ren comic, like he's already like Snoke, and he's already luring Ben right to the dark side. But where did he come from? Like, I know he got cloned, but then how would he get kind of established into society, basically? And how, you know what I mean? Like, how did he become the supreme leader of the First Order? Anyway,
Yeah.
I think that's interesting.
That would be interesting. I don't know how that would connect. Like how I guess I can't predict how that would play out.
Yeah,
That would
right
be
now I can't either.
that would be so cool if that's what it
But
is.
maybe it's somehow connected to, again, maybe it somehow bleeds into what we get in Ahsoka or something.
Yeah, with Thrawn.
With Thrawn. Absolutely. Maybe Thrawn is one of the ones that starts the First Order with him. I don't know, or is involved in the beginnings of it. Who knows? But that would be pretty cool if it went down that road.
It would be. Things that make you go,
Yeah. I mean, because that shot of those Jedi, like, kind of, I mean, they're introducing, not introducing, but they're still connecting us to Jedi and lightsabers and stuff like that still.
yeah.
So that's kind of the reason why I thought about it too. Like that little Jedi connection is interesting because it looks like it's another First Order shot. It looks like it's probably maybe it's Vader coming through there. I don't know.
And maybe it is. Maybe it is First Order.
I'm excited though. I think this it looks incredible. The shots look incredible. Just curious on where this can go.
I like that they tease several different stories, but they do offer one main plot
Yeah.
or one main goal, I should say.
Right. Yeah.
So, yeah, this is going to be interesting.
It is going to be interesting. It's going to be very interesting. So we're still about a month and a half away from the premiere, but like most of you all out there, I think we're all excited about getting this series going again, and it's going to even hype me up even more for Ahsoka, which should be coming shortly after that, hopefully. All right. Anything else, Hannah?
I think you should share what you discovered on YouTube.
Oh, did I skip past that?
Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
you need to share it. You need to share it.
Oh man, I completely forgot. I had it in my notes. I completely forgot. Yes, thank you. So, real quick, because I think this is maybe a longer episode or a longer discussion we may have maybe on Beyond the Saga.
Yes.
Now, and I know most people know this, but Colin Trevorrow was first tasked with creating and producing and directing episode 9. And his episode 9 was called Duel of the Fates. long story short, people know that the script got released or whatever, leaked out there a couple years ago. So everybody kind of knows, I think that cared to know, knows what the story is roughly about. Well, I was watching the Mandalorian trailer and I saw, a suggested video on the side, and it was the motion comic of Trevorrow's script. It's like 2.5 hours long, so I didn't watch all of it, obviously, but I skimmed through it, and I was like, where did this comic come from? Like, who drew this comic? But there was a link in the description, and I clicked on the link, and it takes you to the PDF of the comic. So I have that, and I read through it, and I was telling you about it before we got on here. I'll send it to Hannah, but like, it's pretty crazy what this movie was getting into. Some of the highlights mainly are, there's a lightsaber battle between Kylo and Darth Vader. Kylo and Rey go to Mortis, which is crazy because to me, like, don't you think, Hannah, like if you went and saw this movie, like if this was episode 9 and you're watching it for the first time and all of a sudden they mention Mortis and they go to Mortis, part of me does feel like you lose half the audience because I don't think half the audience even knows what Mortis is.
Right.
I mean, it's a pretty like major lore, like mystical lore of Star Wars now, based on that arc in Clone Wars, right? The Mortis arc. But it's so awesome. Because I've been wanting Mortis for a while, and then they go there. Then they go to Coruscant in this movie, like more than half the movies on Coruscant, which I thought was a big fail that they didn't show Coruscant again in episode 9. Anyway, there's a lot there. Rey's backstory is different. She's not a Palpatine, obviously, in this, and things like that. So. But anyway, it was it's more about the balance of the Force, the light and the dark, and all that stuff. So, which again was kind of brought up in the Force Awakens, and and especially with Luke in The Last Jedi when he's like, what did he say? Something like the balance, right? She said. What did he say? Shoot, I can't remember now.
I can't remember what it was.
Balance about light, about something light, something dark. I can't remember the word he said. But anyway, powerful light, powerful dark. Is that what he said? So anyway.
Yeah.
But that balance that he's talking about with Rey, like when he's first training Rey, like that balance really carried over into this episode 9 that Trevorrow made, and I don't know. I would have been very interested to see this movie in its full version, but anyway.
Yeah, it was powerful light, powerful darkness, describing balance as powerful light, powerful. The thing is when we were talking about this before recording and you were sharing this awesome discovery, it made me realize why the sequels, like all 9 movies of the Skywalker saga, feel incomplete. And I think it's because the end didn't go back to the beginning. There is no connection, except for Palpatine, to the prequels.
Yes.
And even if it was going to Coruscant and going to that Jedi temple.
Yes. You know what? Agreed. And you know what? JJ did was he connected it to the beginning, but he connected it to the beginning of the movies.
Yes.
Not the timeline. He kept going back to the original Star Wars movie.
Yes.
Going back to Tatooine, at the end, and Luke and just Luke as a trained Jedi, and Leia, and it was always just that nostalgic of the original movie, and not thinking as a chronological order of these as you would sit down and watch them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I agree with you. I think that was the big miss as far as connectivity.
Which is why I still firmly believe that there was a huge missed opportunity where Palpatine and Rey, like Palpatine can have all the Sith fight through him. Rey has all the Jedi fight through her as they go through different fighting stances. I mean, like,
Yeah,
that would have even been that would have been a beautiful curtain call, a beautiful tie into the entire Skywalker. Anyway,
agreed, agreed. Anyway, that's out there. If anybody wants to go check it out, I think if you just get on YouTube and search episode 9, Duel of the Fates motion comic. There's actually, I think, a couple of videos out there for it that are. I think there's actually one link. I didn't click on it, but I think there's one that actually someone did an audio drama of the script.
oh wow.
Yeah, I haven't clicked on it and listened, but it just the description said audio drama. So I'm kind of interested in that too. I might check it out, but then again, I'm like, do I want to put myself through that because I'm gonna like sit there and see like, man, they should have made this, and we're never gonna get it, obviously.
Been.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, all right. Thanks, Hannah.
Thank you.
This has been awesome. Great deep dives into Mandalorian trailer episodes 3 and 4, the Bad Batch. We will be back next week to talk about episode 5, which comes out this Wednesday. And getting ready, I mean, we're still a little ways from the Mandalorian, so we got a lot of Bad Batch right now. And just a reminder again, Star Wars Celebration is happening this year, coming up in April 7th through the 10th, I believe, in London. So those of you that are listening to us from London, hope you can make it there and go check it out. It's going to be awesome. I'll just be coming back from Disney the day before Celebration starts. So, yeah, I don't know if we talked about it yet, but I'll be there when Tron opens. Are you going to go? I'm sure you're going to probably try to go, aren't you?
We'll talk about it off the podcast.
Okay. All right. Because the roller coaster Tron opens on, actually, it's Brooke's birthday, 4/4.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and we'll be there. So, yeah, we already got reservations for Magic Kingdom, so we'll be there that day. Anyway, yeah, so I'll be hanging out at Batu for a little bit during that time, right before Celebration, and come back and enjoy Celebration. And come back, hit up the YouTube channel, Inside the Force on YouTube, if you want to get our other shows. Hannah and I will be knocking out some more Beyond the Sagas. Corey and I have already talked to him. We're going to get some Dark Knowledge going. There's a lot of dark side stuff coming out, and of course, the Acolyte coming out next year. So got a lot of stuff to talk about there. And then, of course, me and Martin are going to continue on doing some council sessions on there as well. And then, of course, if you want even more video, patreon.com/Inside the Force. If you want to go check out our tiers and get some reaction videos that we're putting out there and some behind the scenes videos and things like that. So all kinds of stuff we're going to get. Almost done with the website. So that'll be out there soon too. Anyway, thank you all. Thank you, Hannah.
Thank you.
We will see you next week. Take care. Have a great week. May the Force be with you.